All right, so again, we're joined by the general managers of respective hotels, the Westin Resort, Nusa Dua, and also from Sofitel, Nusa Dua Beach Resorts. I'll go to Mr. Oriol first before I go to Mr. Sylvain. Before we arrive to the point of the conversations, welcoming the delegates, would like to touch a little bit at the beginning of our conversations, both of you gentlemen, to just sort of in retrospect, looking back into the excruciating past 2 years of the pandemic.
Yep.
Can you give us an illustration? So how was that then, the industry of hospitality, particularly situations at your respective hotel during the time of the pandemic? Mr. Oriol, would you like to begin first?
Certainly. I mean, definitely, pandemic had a devastating effect for hospitality. I would say that probably the first 4 to 6 months was equally devastating every single part around the world. And then what happened is that destinations where they would have easy access by road from a major city, they were able to recover much easier. The biggest challenge for a destination such as Bali is that being in an island, not having a major hub close by, definitely it was a period of a little bit longer, of a year, where very little visitors we had. It was probably after a year when restrictions, especially in the country, were eased, that then we started seeing little by little recovery. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
How was that at Sofitel during the same period of time in the pandemic, Mr. Sylvain?
Well, I think being in Bali and Nusa Dua in particular, we've been used to be flexible and agile with all the different things that came our way, right?
Exactly.
Of course, the pandemic was one of the most traumatic, but we had bombing in the past, we had earthquake, and we've always been able to switch the business from an international business to domestic. Indonesia, we are very lucky because we have a very strong domestic market, right? And supporting Bali. Indonesians love Bali, right? And so compared to many countries around us, we managed to turn around and survive during this pandemic thanks to the Indonesian market. We are coming here, of course, like Oriol mentioned, according to the restriction, right? If they were a bit higher, we had less customer, but we had also a great support from the government trying to encourage everyone to come and stay in Bali during the pandemic. So overall, we managed to survive and get back on our feet and be ready for the future.
Yeah. Okay. So actually on the first year of the pandemic, many hotels had to close their doors, including in this area. What about your hotels?
Well, for us in Sofitel, we never closed actually. We were on a limited operation for the first few months, right? Because of course we didn't know, like everyone in the world, where we were heading to.
Exactly.
So we were basically very careful with what we opened. With the standard of health and safety back then were not very
high. Yeah.
That's right, and they were not very clear.
Exactly.
Worldwide, right?
And regulations changed all the time.
Constantly, everywhere.
In every minute, there is
exactly.
changes.
So we try to adapt. We try to put our head around that. And after a couple of months, I think July, August, we started again to feel confident to open, not on the scale we are today, but to open on a limited scale during the entire pandemic. I think the hotels who did not keep their property open are the ones who've been suffering the most towards the end, right? Because the maintenance in a resort destination and in a tropical environment is actually crucial.
It's basically negative business operational costs in a way. So keeping it open is highly costly at that particular time. What was the case for?
Same. The hotel never closed. We had a meeting with the ownership of the hotel, with the management company. And everyone was aligned that it was important for such a key hotel as Westin or Sofitel to remain open, because it was very important to show to the world that Bali was ready to welcome them back.
Yeah, that we are resilient.
Correct, as well.
Yeah, that's a sign we're telling the world at the moment.
As well, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that as well, I totally agree with Sylvain. Hotels that we remain open, I think that we created a culture of innovation, of trying new things. And I think that helped us to recover much faster.
That was one interesting point mentioned by Mr. Sylvain earlier, that one of the things that we relied on during the time of the pandemic was the support from the government. So what sort of support from the government, particularly the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy, was in charge of our this particular departments, that our prominent hotels here in Nusa Dua, Bali received during that time, if you care to elaborate?
I think that there were a lot of different actions that they were taking. The one that comes on top of my mind was the strategy of working from Bali. And that had a big impact. And I think that helped for other people around the country to understand that working from Bali made totally sense. So we saw not only government, we saw as well private consumers moving with families, moving by themselves, and then spend a few months. And this had a huge effect, positive effect in our hotels.
I remember specifically the hashtag WFB trending for a while. So working in Bali. However, that was negated by the flying regulations that was quite imposing to some people. So, but then again, this sort of regulations really help out not only the people to have a more a safer ground, at least, to sort of embark upon these staycations and work from Bali, but also for the hotels as well. And did that do a lot of help also for Sofitel, or other support from the government came your way as well?
Well, I think, of course, we were all waiting for the regulations to change, right? And of course, it depends month on month. There was not 2 months similar, right? One after the other. However, what the government did is they were encouraging meeting and gathering to happen in Bali, with, of course, all the health protocol in place and all the healthy measure in place. But we had, for example, during the pandemic, the Bali Democracy Forum happened, right?
Exactly.
And that was a big event for us, and it really helped the communities here. It really helped the hotels to survive during the pandemic, because, again, we didn't know how long it would last. So I think being so flexible and being so agile from the government in supporting now and then the island was crucial for us.
Okay, sir. So how do you manage with those changes? I mean, the regulation kept changes because of the pandemic, and also the regulation for the, as Rahmat mentioned, the flying regulations also keep changes. So how do you manage with those changes every time, like every minute?
I think one of the key success factors was our people, actually. We needed the flexibility, we needed the support of our team. We needed everyone to understand that we are all in the same boat, and only together we could move forward and overcome this pandemic. And everyone, and I think it was the same in Westin or everywhere in Bali, everyone in Bali understood how important it was to support the company, to support the community, and to be flexible towards the pandemic. So, of course, we had up and down a lot, we had doubts a lot, but we overcame every time. And it was one battle at a time.
Okay, so what about you, sir?
I mean, yes, it was a time of changes and challenges.
Exactly.
But I think that especially, I would say, the 8-9 months of the pandemic, all those changes were to better. So it was difficult to keep adjusting to those regulations, but at the same time was exciting, because all those changes that they were happening little by little was meaning that we could welcome foreigners with some restrictions, and then was less. So, as mentioned by Sylvain, I think that we have an amazing team, and a team that always kept the positive spirit, and that helped to overcome all those challenges and all those changes.
Well, many have said, gentlemen, that the time of the pandemic that we have experienced in the past couple of years, a very excruciating time, is a time unlike any other. So I don't think in our generation we've experienced something like this. If we can take a great lessons from that particular time that we've been through, what are the key lessons learned here, especially for the hospitality industries and prominent hotels in Nusa Dua, Bali? Mr.
Yeah, I mean, many. Definitely, I think for Westin, domestic business was always very important. But definitely is it became it's still even more important nowadays, and with the growth of the country, that will not change. So is how can we do to welcome more and more domestic market as per the needs that they have. I think that as well, it created a much more resilient spirit in the team. So how can we look for constant innovation, and how can we bring new ideas to the restaurants, to the different areas of the hotel? Yeah.
Right. Mr. Sylvain, your experience with that department?
I think it was really back to the basic human values. I think it was very important during that time to realize that every small piece of business matters, every member of your team matters a lot, that supporting each other is crucial to move on in life and to survive. Resilience in Bali, of course, we know that because we've been through many things over the years, but basic values, I think, we're back in the picture, right? And things that we tend to forget when we enjoy a very healthy life, a good business, and you know. And I think it was a good time to get back to our roots.
If we can go a bit flashback a bit, what was the occupancy rate? How was the occupancy rate during those hard times, and when it started to increase?
Yeah, and adding to that, I'd like to get also your perspective on how you mentioned that every member of our staff is a crucial and valued member of the entire operational time of the hotels. But some of the hotels, as we know, had to go through staff cuts. So major, a loss in terms of human resources. Did you have to go through that as well? So,
yeah, well, redundancies were part of the picture, right? Everyone, when you run a hotel, basically, it's very simple. You have utilities that cost energy, that cost a lot of money, and payroll. We all know that. And when there is no revenue coming, you need to look at these two big tickets, if I may say. What we tried to do in Sofitel, and I think it was the same for most of the big hotel, is our team tried to pick more jobs. There were more multitasking. We all did things that, because we didn't outsource anymore, we didn't have suppliers like we used to have. So someone from the front office could also help in F&B. Someone from the F&B could help in security, and so on and so forth. We did a lot of training, more than ever. We had food and beverage employees doing engineering and fixing things here and there. Every skill that one has was used to the maximum.
So in a way, it is also contributing to the development, to the skilling of human resources of your hotel.
Today, I have employees who don't want to go back to food and beverage. They want to stay in engineering.
They have discovered their other talents in the hotels as well. What about your experience, Mr. Montal?
You mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned about the levels of occupancies. I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, as we mentioned, we never closed. So what we saw is a lot of our guests, unfortunately, they couldn't come to Bali, but because of a lot of hotels closing, a lot of those guests moved to those hotels that they remain open. Occupancy is very low, very, very low. We are talking about below 20%. And I think that little by little, the hotels that remain open, little by little, as they kept especially long stay guests. You were mentioning when we got the. I think it's very difficult to say, because I think that we were talking before, it was up and down. I remember Christmas 2020, we were all super excited, and we had an amazing Christmas, New Year. But then suddenly there was another wave, and then suddenly there was
new annoying variants.
Correct. So for us, the first time that we gained, I would say, the stability was in October 2021. We were very fortunate to get in a bubble system the first international sport competition in the country. It was a badminton international competition. And that's what it set us already with very good occupancies up until where we are today. Maybe a period of few weeks at the beginning of the year where there was a small dip. Regarding associates, definitely. I mean, there was some adjustments that we had to do, but we were extremely fortunate. Our owners, they were incredible, and that made us be like a very tight family, and with a lot of challenges and sacrifices. But I think that made us to be today even a much stronger team than what it was before pandemic.
Which brings me to my next question to both of you gentlemen, is that it got the ball rolling toward the recovery of the tourism industry in Bali, that particular time of year that you said. And I remember exactly when in 2022 that Bali hosts the GDPRR, the global platform of disaster risk reductions. I arrived at the airport, and then the headlines was that the number of tourist visits to Bali had increased 1,000%. I cried my way out of the airport because I was so happy about that. And then, I think I'm going to tune up. So, but that's such a long time coming. We've been expecting that for a long time. And now, international borders have been lifted, restrictions have been lifted, tests are no more. So how did the prominent hotels in Bali have recovered in terms of its operations? As you said, not only we have survived, but hopefully will thrive. So your experiences, please. Mr. Sylvain.
Well, I think for us it was like going through a reopening altogether again, right? Even if we didn't close our hotel, rebuilding, for the international, rebuilding our team, readapting to the international standards also of the hotel industry was like reopening the hotel. So it felt like a lot of work, to be very honest with you, but it felt great for everyone. The excitement, like Oriol mentioned, of the first international guest coming back after two years, right? Almost 2 years, was actually very, very unique. We were like, welcome back. Exactly.
Yeah, the level of happiness was just indescribable. Yeah. I mean, for us too, I can't imagine for the industry, but for us too, it's just as common folks to see international guests coming in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was just unbelievable.
So many guests were actually locked in their countries also, right? For the past 2 years, came back, and it was like meeting our team that they knew from before. Most of them were like returning customers. So actually the feeling was fantastic. But on the road to the readiness of now, of welcoming such an important event like the G20, for example, it took us a lot of work, it took us a lot of training, it took us a lot of fixing here and there, and I think it's very important for us now to show the world that we are ready for this week, but also ready for the future. So
what was the recovery like for Westin?
Yeah, first of all, you were talking about emotions, and I think that for all our team, when there was the regulation of being able to welcome guests with 2-3 days quarantine, it was extremely emotional, no? To see all those guests arriving to our hotels. Some of the hotels, they were repeat customers, and I really can still remember, no? Both the guests as well as our associates crying to see that moment that we were all waiting for, no?
Scenes.
And regarding the recovery, I have to say that from a Westin Resort Nusa Dua point of view, a lot of people, they think G20 and they think the summit in the month of November. But the reality is that everything started on the month of November, December last year. And for us, I believe that has been an amazing gift. All the support from the government, with all the meetings that they have been happening over the past 1 year. And that has helped us to keep training, to keep developing all our associates, and ensuring that we are ready for what it is today.
That's great. I am Balinese actually, so I am so happy seeing international tourists start to coming. And what about the occupancy from the international tourists nowadays?
Yeah, if you
During
could
the
put us,
share.
if you could put it in numbers for us.
Well, for me, if I can say,
like the graphics.
So in 2020, starting from after NIEPI when we close, right, until the end of the year, 100% domestic market, right? So our occupancy was a roller coaster, like Oriol mentioned. We had months at 20%, but we also had months, like for example, NIEPI 2021, I was running at 90-95% during a couple of days because we were promoting staycation, we are promoting towards the domestic market to stay with us. To 2021, it was also 100% domestic, and now the share is back to 60-40. Domestic is also still very important to us in terms of MICE, in terms of leisure, but the international is back. Australia is one of the major international markets in Bali.
That's right.
We have also India is one of the big feeder market. China is not back yet, right? We all know that, but countries such as mine, France, for example, Germany,
have started to arrive as well.
Exactly. UK are really important to us, and they are a big part of our recovery.
All right, so Mr. Sylvain, also Mr. Oriol, that was a brief conversation about colleagues, since Quebecers, with a number of ambassadors within the G20 member states on their response of Indonesia's presidency, including our preparedness to welcome the Leaders Summit just next week here in Bali. So from your perspective, you mentioned a little bit about our ways, part of our ways to recovery is promoting to the world that we're ready to welcome and to welcome back and not only delegates, but all visitors to Bali. So what are your efforts in order to do so from your own institutions? Probably we'll start from Sofitel first.
Well, I think it's very important to mention that Nusa Dua, as we all know, is the center of events, conventions for Bali, right? So for us, that segmentation of clientele is extremely important. Domestically, we've done fantastic for over the past 2 years compared to the rest of the world. But internationally, the window of reopening Bali to the international, meaning in June, July, right, until now, was very short for events worldwide to book and stay with us. So basically, the G20, not only the fact that it's a very important event for Indonesia, right? And G20 brings us awareness. If you remember the APEC, the IMF in the past years, the year following this kind of event were a great year for MICE in Nusa Dua because of the awareness worldwide that it was a destination for events and convention. So there will be this for us, and it will be one of the benefits. Show that we are ready, basically. Everyone still has in mind the health and safety protocol, right? It's still very important to everyone. We are hosting, I guess, Oriol, myself, all the general managers and hotels, delegations, head of state, events, dinner, conference. All of them are still following somehow the social distance. The tables are not as packed like they used to be. There is still alcohol everywhere to make sure that we clean our hands. I mean, all of this is still very much in our mind. And I think we should not compromise on that, right? Because it's still very fresh, if I may say. So, in
a way, that has also become a habit, like personal habit, to keep a higher level of a higher standard of hygiene, like personally and professionally, and wherever we are.
Absolutely.
So from the Western perspective, Mr. Oriol.
No, I mean, I think, as I was mentioning before, to have an event as G20 for the past 12 months in different locations for Indonesia, but many of the times in Bali, has been key for the recovery of the market. I think not only G20, there was several other key events, such as we mentioned, UN, or there was the about GDPR, the parliament. And I think that all those delegates, they left back home with amazing memories. And I'm sure that this is something that will help to keep pushing that recovery to get faster and faster. I remember that there was, during pandemic, in one of the tourist publication, a survey of where will be the first place that you would like to go after pandemic, and it came #1, Bali. And I think that doing the right thing, ensuring that we have the right protocols, that we are keeping good care of our guests, with the image that Bali still has, I think that will be the perfect combination for success.
All right. So let's touch on the hot button topic now. The Leaders Summit just next week. From your own respective hotels, what have you prepared to welcome the heads of states?
Is there any special preparation maybe?
Yeah, I think that has been a year, no? I think that it's...
we know that ministerial meetings have taken place across the years too.
No, but not only, I'm talking a year from what it is the main summit of 2022.
Yeah.
Ensuring that we are bringing additional leadership to take very good care of every single VIP coming.
Yeah.
Investment from an ownership point of view. So I think that really has been a very intense countdown of 12 months to assure that we make every single delegation leave Bali with amazing memories. So yeah.
But you're not allowed to divulge which heads of states, which delegates will be staying at Westin.
No, we're not.
Because it's very confidential.
You're just going to have to stand by around the hotels to know who's coming.
We like to keep the suspense to the last minute.
That's our job.
That's our job.
Exactly.
At Sofitel, what has been in preparation? What's the ongoing anticipations with the day?
I think back to what Oriol was saying, we've been preparing for a while now. But as a hotelier, what is great for us is to fine-tune and to go above and beyond our guest expectation.
Above and beyond. Wow,
yeah,
that's
this is very important for us to over-deliver, if I may say. So the last minute of the preparation are the most exciting ones because we always find, like some preference from our guests, from our head of state, from our big organization staying with us, and we want to make this special touch that will make this stay memorable. They're all going to be extremely busy. They're all going to attend very important meeting, decide the future of the world, right? Yeah. But when they come back to the hotel, when they come back to their room, these people are traveling a lot worldwide. We want them to feel home. And I think this is our duty to deliver this level of service.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So any special accreditation maybe for the Sofitel and also Westin to be the prominent hotels for the G20 Leaders Summit, for the delegates to can stay at your hotel. So is there any special request maybe, accreditation maybe from the government and also the...
because in the world of inviting important peoples, be it presidents, heads of states, prime ministers, or even celebrities, they have the so-called riders.
Yeah.
So have you encountered any specific, interesting, you don't have to mention from which delegates or riders that you have to fulfill, be it in Westin or in Sofitel?
The one thing that we have done at the Westin already for the last few weeks is we have assigned every single of those top delegations to a team of 4 top leadership of the property. And so basically the function of those teams of 4 is to already about 6 to 8 weeks ago was to contact the head of protocol for each of those delegations and to start understanding what it is important for them. And definitely, so those teams, they have been busy collecting all those preferences from a special dietary, from newspapers that they would like to have every morning. But no, that's what is the beauty on the hospitality, no? To
Prime Minister, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a vegetarian, so a specific vegetarian. That's something that we need to meet in terms of. What about in terms of experience and preparations?
Like you said, these are things we need to know, right? So for each delegation, each group, we have the person in charge. And this person in charge is either coming from our management company task force or from our own leadership in Sofitel or in Westin, I guess. And yes, of course, we need to know the preference of our guests, but we need to know also what is their agenda, what they are going to do, what kind of pace they want us to serve them, how they want to be welcome, or how they want to be, if they want to be, incognito, right? So all of these points are crucial, and I think, like every 5-star hotel, international hotel in the world, privacy is crucial. Safety, security, these are the 3 key success factors to an international summit like ours.
Particularly welcoming heads of states, right?
Exactly.
We talked about this earlier with my colleague, Mr. Sylvain, or Mr. Oriol, was that there is a regulation from the government of Bali province in further promoting traditional liquors. Would you care to elaborate?
Yeah, exactly. The
Devi.
Arak Bali. So yeah, as Rahmat mentioned, that the government of Bali asked the hotels in Bali to try to serve the Balinese liquors, as Mr. Sylvain already told, that is the Arak Bali itself. So what about for the G20 summit? Do
you serve?
There's a welcome drink is made with Arak for the head of state. I'm not sure.
So have you tried the Arak Bali
Of
before?
course, I've been here for many years, so I've tried
Okay,
way
then.
too many times. Well, Arak is a very quality and beautiful alcohol, and it's been a trend not only for this G20 summit, but over the past years to actually incorporate the Arak in our concoction, in our cocktails, in our not welcome drinks, obviously, but in our cooking and our beverage list. So I think promoting local products is crucial, is very important, right? Oriol is wearing a beautiful endek, which is Balinese batik. Sorry, mine is Javanese today. But it's basically extremely important, in particular in the spirit of the main topics of the G20, to promote the local products, to, of course, promote the local communities.
Local delicacy as well.
The delicacy. Yeah. So I think we all embracing that, and what the governor is doing today is fantastic in promoting the culture of Bali.
Yeah, so what about in Westin, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I have been working and living in Indonesia for 5 years, and I truly think that it's amazing the pride of the country on their cultures, on their traditions, and I truly think that this will be one of the priorities during the G20 to ensure that when those delegations they arrive, they feel that is not only one meeting, but that there is the most amazing meeting in Indonesia and in Bali. So there will be many aspects that we are going to do supporting the direction of the governor of Bali. There is all the management will be wearing a couple of days a week endek, and then there is other couple of days that we will all be wearing the Balinese attire. As well, one thing that we have been working over the past few weeks is on the amenities to all those delegations. We could have bought any single thing, but we wanted to ensure that the amenities reflects Bali. So we have been working as well with local suppliers, as an example, to provide beautiful fans that they are very typical of what it will be the culture of Bali for all the ladies. And we have been working as well to provide some Balinese puppets as well as the farewell gift for all the delegates. So I think that all those small touches, they will make the difference to the guests, and that's what we want. We want that they feel that it's not only a meeting, that is a meeting in the most magical place in the world, Bali.
So you still do make sure that the local products is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in a way, I guess the vision here is to bring up and to elevate Arak Bali or the Balinese liquor, probably shoulder to shoulder with Korean soju or Japanese sake, hopefully someday. But at this point, we should not be expecting welcome drinks upon arrival, either at Westin or Sofitel. That remains to be seen.
But if they request, maybe they can say
That can be upon the
That can be
farewell, right?
Okay.
To celebrate the success of G20.
All right. Another interesting point when welcoming heads of states, prime ministers, or presidents to a 5-star and more hotel is that the security details that comes along with it. How do your respective hotels cope with the requirements of security that should be imposed, that should be put in place upon or prior to the arrival of the heads of states? Mr. Sylvain.
Well, for us, it's well, I can actually open for that. We are welcoming in Sofitel the spouse program during the G20. This one is not a secret, so we
Okay,
can
so
we
it's
can
not
absolutely
program.
the
That's
spouse program
interesting,
with all the first ladies, of course, welcomed by the first lady of Indonesia, Ibu Iriana. We did the rehearsal yesterday at the same time when Kapinski was doing the rehearsal for the gentleman program, right?
Okay.
And all the support we have from the Indonesian army, from the police over the past few days, right? And but not also army and police, the PLN, the Telcom. All this support is guiding us towards, ensuring the security and the safety of all our delegates.
Right.
All our other delegates, if they are coming from foreign country, obviously they have their own security. They have their own protocol.
Exactly.
They want to know about the details of the hotel. So basically it comes from the mapping of where things are towards where our security is posted, where the police is posted. So basically these are all the pre-work we all went through, I guess, in every single hotel in Nusa Dua, leading towards the G20. It's quite detailed, but again, in Nusa Dua, we are used to that in a way. We've been welcoming so many conferences over the past decades that we know how to apprehend that, how to organize that and anticipate that. And I think it gives the delegates a feeling of confidence that they can, in all safety and security, conference with us. So I think it's the strength of being in Nusa Dua.
Yeah. Moreover, each countries have different security protocols, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely, but they're all very similar at the end of the day, right?
Okay. So what about in Westin?
You probably won't answer this, but we can be sure that Emmanuel Macron is staying in Sofitel. Probably not. Yeah. What about the security details required at Westin?
Again, all the preparations started about a year ago. Preparation of a meeting like this is complex.
Exactly.
So, as always, in Indonesia, there was a security task force. And already during the preliminary visits, we worked with them. And again, we were extremely fortunate with support of the ownership, where we were able to upgrade a lot of the facilities. One thing that is beneficial to us is that for Marriott, security is the base of everything. So all the past few months, especially on the last portion of the last 3 months, we have been conducting a large number of training to ensure that our associates, they feel comfortable and that everything becomes as natural of if ever anything should happen. But the last thing that I would like to say, as mentioned with Sylvain, I think that Nusa Dua is the place, probably in the world, I would say, that has hosted the largest number of international events. I think that the layout of Nusa Dua helps putting the right measures so that the delegations that they come, they feel comfortable and that they can enjoy. We have been working very close with the government of Indonesia to ensure that we are ready for such an important event.
So I guess it's safe to say that not only the area itself, all the elements within Nusa Dua are very fluent with high-level security details that is required for events like this. And we are more than ready to welcome all the heads of states coming into Bali just next week.
Exactly. So we know that after the G20 summit, we expect more tourists coming. So what do you think about this? What do you expect for the next, after the G20 summit?
The reality is that we see the upcoming few months, we see it extremely positive. We are seeing the first couple of weeks of December with large, I would say, mix of government and domestic events as well as international events. And we are very optimistic as well on Christmas, New Year. Seems like people around the world, they are missing Bali and that they are ready to enjoy, I think for the first time, a Christmas and New Year as it used to be in before pandemic. And the same for the first few months of the year. We are seeing both MICE, international and domestic, as well as leisure coming strong. So we are very, very optimistic.
So what about you, Mr. Sylvain?
Well, based on facts, the past few months we've been overperforming compared to 2019.
Oh wow!
So and Sofitel is not the only hotel. Many five-star hotel in not only Nusa Dua, in Bali are seeing the same trend, right? So it's very encouraging, and we are very optimistic for the future. I think it's important to mention that Bali, Nusa Dua, is not only made for conference, right? It's not only a destination of conference, but large-scale wedding, for example. It's a beautiful dreaming destination for weddings. And we are seeing them coming back. We are seeing not only inquiries, but right after the G20, we have a very, very big wedding happening in Sofitel, where our occupancy will be extremely high with events. So basically, we are not stopping here. We are continuing, right? Yeah. And like Oriol mentioned, leading towards the first quarter and second quarter of 2023, the number of inquiries, the level of interest we are seeing in the hotel is as important, as huge as it used to be before in 2019, even more. So of course our owners have supported us a lot towards that, meaning our facilities have been upgraded in the past few months, right? I think we were all very prepared, but also lucky in a way with the timing, because we managed to get everything done right in the right time. And looking at 2023, even though the air traffic might not be back to what it was before, I think with different segments and different markets, we will be able to overcome what we did in 2019.
Okay, so for the next year, do we still depend on the domestic market, or
we always depend on domestic market? It's crucial. It's important to not neglect the domestic market and to work together with the domestic market. Whether it's for leisure, whether it's for conferencing, whether it's for wedding, we are in Indonesia, and the market in Indonesia matters to us.
And we comprise of over 17,000 islands.
Exactly.
Like 300 million people. There's a huge market that can, that can be put to use here, and that's something that is a constant variable to depend upon the domestic market.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think Nusa Dua has always been a destination extremely focused on domestic market.
Right, and very, very popular too.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my next question to both of you, gentlemen. As we embark upon the Leaders Summit next week, and then in moving forward in 2023, there's a lot to expect. As you say, numbers are rising. Is it safe to say that Bali, the industry of tourism, hospitality, has not only survived, but thrived post the pandemic?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think, all the tourism industry has suffered a lot in the world, right, over the past few years. And I think Bali tourism industry has been very proactive, not only the hotels, but also transportation, also the Bali Tourism Board, and so on and so on. Bali Hotel Association have been extremely proactive in promoting the destination, in supporting the hotel, and working together with all the important key elements of the tourism. So I think compared to many destinations, we've never gave up, right? And we've been thriving towards the recovery. So I agree with that.
What about Westin?
Totally agree. I mean, I think that hotels were extremely resilient, but I think that for that destination, government was extremely resilient. And I think that this combination of private and public sector together has helped to ensure that 2023 will be a great year. And one thing that starting to be on the air and discussions is APEC, no? So I think that we are all starting to be very excited about Indonesia being the host of APEC 2023. So
right, it's currently ongoing in Thailand, Bangkok, and hopefully our turn next year will be even better, so even at a larger scale. It's probably quite an inspiring question on my part to both of you, gentlemen, because the area, the entire surrounding of Nusa Dua, it is undeniable. It is supported by communities around it, be it art and cultural communities, and we talk about just common people who are not directly contributing to the area, but in a way they have their own role to play. So is there a way from all these starred hotels in the region to sort of give back to the communities in a way for them to recover as well, in line with our theme of the G20, recover together and recover stronger? Is there a way from our large chain hotels to give back to the local communities around in Bali, particularly to our communities of art and cultures and other smaller scale hospitality supporting system?
Of
Mr.
course.
Sylvain.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Accor Indonesia, we have about 130 hotels within the country, right? Going from 5-star luxury hotel to economy hotel. 70 to 80% of our market is actually domestic market. Communities matter to us, and it's always been about giving back to the communities. We work together with charity organization. We work together, we have Yayasan, we have a different orphanage we are looking after. For us, working together with the art, working together with the cultural community is extremely important. And we've been promoting and working together towards the entire pandemic until now. So moving forward, there is nothing we could have done, and there is nothing we are planning to do without the local communities, whether it's cultural-wise, charity-wise, or just working together as a team, if I may say, as a family.
Yeah, because as also mentioned by Mr. Oriol, that we're providing amenities from our local crafters and everything, but not only for the supply, but for them to survive as well in regards to all of these big chains hotels per se. What about from the Western part?
I mean, same, no? Westin is part of Marriott, and big commitment of Marriott on the local culture. And it was already before pandemic, but we really see that more than ever this becomes even more important. And I have given the example of the amenities for the delegations of G20, but if you go today to our gift shop, you will see that in the gift shop we are showcasing NDEC and we are as well partnering with silver supplier in Bali. So if you go to our shop, there is a few suppliers that they are selling as well the older, beautiful bracelets. So we are always constantly looking on options on how we can support the local community around us. As well, from a food point of view, the same. We are working together with Bank of Indonesia, especially in the region of Tabanan, and buying directly from suppliers so that they can, one, it's because the customers, that's what they want. When they come to Bali, they want to try the products of Bali. Correct.
From Bali.
Correct.
Yeah. That brings me to my next question to you. How much of a percentage of local culinary serving, local cuisines, will be represented within your entire roster of menus and dishes presented to the G20 delegates?
Mostly, where we're hosting, I give you an example, we're hosting few head of state gala dinner, and all the menus are actually a fusion of Indonesian food, Balinese of course, but also from all the archipelago. Of course, we adapt the level of spice to the taste of the foreign delegate.
Not only the level of spice, and the way to present it as well.
And the way to present. Sometimes we twist it into a Western way. Sometimes we present it in a very traditional way. So it depends the theme of the dinner. It depends the activity. But we are promoting all the culinary delicacies of the archipelago and of Bali, of course, mainly. And I think, like Oriol and you mentioned, Paramount, it's actually what our customers are looking for. They want to discover. They want to taste the flavor. They want to know. They are very curious. Our chefs are explaining what is the bumbu, what is the different.
What exactly is sambal?
What is sambal? The beautiful, famous sambal mata, right?
And what are the after effects? What about in West? What about in West?
Same. I mean, I was mentioning before working with the government, they, as well, one of their priorities is to show the pride of Indonesia, to show the pride of the different elements related to foods that they can showcase.
Yeah.
But as it goes aligned to what the customers they want. So yeah.
Because experiencing local culinary is an integral part to being in another country. It is a tourism experience of its own. So it would be a remiss if we don't give them and provide them with that experience of Indonesian cuisine.
Exactly.
Right? Yes, please.
I mean, there was, I remember, in month of March, during a meeting that was happening in the hotel with the Union of Parliaments, one of the members came to me and said, it's a pity that your coffee is not Indonesian. And I said, what do you mean? Our coffee is Indonesian. So I think that a lot of the times, some guests, they think that big hotels like Westin or Sofitel, that we are not supporting the local culture. And I can assure you that it's our priority. So when that person saw that our coffee is produced in Indonesia, part of it in Bali, it made a huge difference to them because it's what they want. What they want is to really ensure that, to see that the hotels, we are supporting the local culture, but as well they want to try. They want to try the amazing products that there is in the country.
Well, hopefully it was not an Indonesian coffee that guests had tasted somewhere else outside of Indonesia and didn't know it was Indonesian and thought it was that particular country's coffee, and they came here and thought it wasn't from here. So hopefully it wasn't the case. Just upon the final minutes of our conversations, gentlemen, here we are in conversations live on TVRI World, and we are a state televisions, and we are the official broadcaster of the G20. And there's this recommendations from the Ministry of Communications and Informatics of the Republic of Indonesia, because on the 15th and on the 16th of November 2022, we will be broadcasting from 6 a.m. in the morning until midnight, the entire deliberations here in Nusa Dua and around. So the recommendation from the ministry was that for all these major prominent hotels in Nusa Dua, Bali, to display our program. Would that be a consideration of your hotels? So also put us on at least one of your screens at your hotels, TVRI World. What do you think about this?
Well, of course, we would be very honored to.
Yeah.
Yes, by all means.
Just tell us how to get the channel. Right. So we surely hope that because our main mission here is to disseminate information to the public, be it domestic or international, as much as possible, how much G20 is giving back to not only to the member states, but beyond it, and how it will do good to people. So the mission is yet to give them the information as much as possible, and to give this out to the world, that G20 will bring good things to the world. So that would be an honor for us to have us on display at your prominent hotels, if that's at all possible.
The honor will be ours.
All right, Defi, anything else before we close the conversation?
Okay, so before we close our program, our conversation, what are your hopes after the G20? Let's say we're going to welcome another international events next year. So what do you expect after this?
In my side, I don't think so that it's a hope. I think that it's a reality. And the reality is that Bali has in front of us a very strong recovery. And that it is amazing to see that the months of December, January, and February are looking strong. And this is something that I feel that it was a concern of all of us. We were like, what about after G20? And so that's what makes me comfortable, and probably one of the effects of hosting G20 and having so many thousands of international delegates that since the month of November, December, they have been going back saying Bali is ready.
Yeah. So do you think that the G20 summit would give some kind like a very good promotion for Bali, like can I say accelerating the tourism recovery in Bali?
Yeah, absolutely. The G20 is key success element of Indonesia future and Bali future, of course, in terms of tourism, but in regards to many matters, right? I think we are all looking after these past 2 years to stability and to comfort, like you mentioned, right? And we've been extremely successful in terms of tourism over many years, and we want to show the world that we will be again, we are again, and we will be again. So I think that's the most important thing for us. Yeah.
Wow, those are some of the most spiritful and just encouraging words coming from you, general managers of Westin and Sofitel, just to sort of bring over the message to the entire world out there, G20 and beyond, that we're ready to welcome you and welcome you back to Bali, Indonesia. And the level of exposure of the G20, not only towards major economies, but beyond it, is going to be just unbelievable. So this is the end of our conversations. I'd like to extend my gratitude and thanks to Mr. Oriol Montal, General Manager of the Westin Resort, Nusa Dua, Bali, and also Mr. Sylvain Pasdeloup, General Manager of Sofitel Nusa Dua Beach Resorts. It has been a privilege and honor. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you,
Pleasure.
Paramat.
Right.
Thank you.